let's get right into the stud muffins. Russell Wilson can't stop, won't stop.
Don't stop till you get it.
I mean, he's breaking records at this point.
Yeah.
I think he has 16 touchdowns in the last 4 games, which is just incredible. And if you watch it, you buy into it because he's in the pocket, dissecting, destroying. 5 more touchdowns. A lot of thanks to Jason for the honorary sit of the week to keep him in the flame.
Yes, thank you. I put him as my honorary.
That will continue. Foot Clan, we will continue to
sit Wilson the rest of the year.
This is going to soon change into the Russell Wilson sit of the week segment.
Yes, I love it.
But, here's the deal. He has the number 1 wide receiver over the second half of the year, so that's always good for a quarterback, right?
I don't know he's got Jerry Rice,
Yeah.
Randy Moss,
Doug Baldwin.
Unbelievable. Your start of the week, Doug Baldwin. 3 more touchdowns.
3 more. I mean, the guy is deep in the fire.
If you saw I don't know if you saw the highlights from that game or watched that game. The last Doug Baldwin touchdown, I've never seen a player more open in my life. It was like he ran a post and the defender ran into the stance and he just broke into the middle of the field. And I wonder if Russell Wilson just said, all right, he just hook shotted it to him.
Doug Baldwin is full on Targaryen right now. That's
the level of fire.
The level of fire that is happening with Doug Baldwin.
It's unstoppable. And I said it last week. I said, well, at some point you can't just put up 45 touchdown a year pace, right?
Yeah.
Well,
eventually he might stop.
Well, that's the great thing. If he just keeps this pace up, at the end of the year, he won't have 45 because the first half of the year was bad. So it'll be like, yeah, that was a good year.
But the matchup next week at home against Cleveland.
Well,
Come on.
You want to know what helps, though? Is
over under 3 more.
Well, with Rawls going down, I mean, that is only beneficial. Well, it hurts the offense. You have to realize that it does.
I don't think it's beneficial.
No.
I would count it in the negative category. No play action pass.
I agree.
But he's playing so well right now. So he is. He's on fire. Russell Wilson, 23, 292, 5 touchdowns. Probably your best start at the quarterback position right now in the playoffs. He's the best start next week. I can guarantee he's going to be at the top of my list against the Browns at home. Cam Newton carved him up, 15 for 265 and 3. A couple incredible throws, and Jason and I were talking about this yesterday in the car. Really a very capable wide receiver core at this point with Olsen, Corey Brown, Ted Ginn getting deep,
Devin Funchess,
Jericho Cotchery possession. It's turned into something, he's turned them into something valuable. There was a great catch by Philly Brown on the sideline yesterday on this back foot fall away laser beam that Cam Newton keeps throwing.
I would not want to be a Carolina wide receiver. I would be so afraid of that.
Did you ever watch
those footballs? Come like they're shooting out of one of those those shirt cannons that they shoot to the upper deck. And I'm 5 yards away from them.
Yeah, he. Did you guys ever see the Brett Favre returns to Lambeau special they did on NFL Network? They went over
I saw some of it.
His career, and then they started talking to Antonio Freeman and how many broken fingers and how many dislocated fingers the receivers had for Brett Favre, and you wonder if it's that way for Cam sometimes. But amazing game for Cam. Has the Giants next week. So these 2 on-fire quarterbacks just get great matchups again next week. Mariota had a very interesting
game.
Actually put up fantasy points without throwing a touchdown because he caught a touchdown. He caught a 41-yard touchdown from Antonio Andrews, and it was a great play design because he's faster than most people. And they just lined him up on a linebacker, and he ran a fly, and he was wide open. So Blake Bortles comes through with 4 again. The biggest feedback I've gotten from listeners of the show is, well, I was trying to decide Bortles and Big Ben.
Mm-hmm.
And I still stand by the fact I would have started Big Ben 100 out of 100 times.
Was the right play, while Big Ben did not put up massive fantasy points. It's one of those things where you got to look at the D'Angelo Williams. I believe he had 2 touchdowns.
Well, it was more than that too. It was Dalton's injury,
the game flow,
that changed the equation for them.
The first time these 2 teams played, Big Ben was not healthy, and it hurt the offensive production for both teams. And then you come back around, excited for the big shootout, and Andy Dalton goes down.
Anything that can happen.
There you go.
In reverse.
Or not. Because no touchdowns for Big Ben. Probably hurt a lot of people. Blake Bortles, though, keeps it going. He has the Falcons next week, who cannot get a win no matter what they do.
That is the situation in Atlanta. What? 5-0, and now what are they? They're 6 and something.
They have lost a lot. I think they're 1-7 since then, and they are playing at a terrible level. The offense is terrible. The offense is averaging less than half than what they averaged in that 5-game win streak. They cannot find a solution. All right, and the coaching is just the big mistake here, because yesterday you saw this. Julio Jones has success in the slot. He's normally in the slot 25% of the time. Norman wasn't on him in the slot. They lined him up in the slot 6% of the time yesterday.
What are you doing? That's ridiculous. He still had an okay game.
Because they pulled time. Norman out.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's helpful.
And a 46-yard catch or whatever it was. So, but he did do what we said he'd do, which is he's going to give you a baseline when you target somebody that much. But, yeah, just a mess of an offense. And you know who it's killing more than – I mean, Julio owners is killing because there's no red zone targets. Devontae Freeman owners are getting destroyed because they cannot move the ball. Every single drive was 3rd and long, it felt like. So, terrible there. Can't start Matt Ryan. You have to start Devontae Freeman most likely, but not a good game. And Ryan Fitzpatrick has been putting up huge fantasy numbers. Another stud muffin of the week. You know, Decker and Marshall are just unstoppable.
They're good for each one gets a touchdown a week. That's pretty much what's happened almost all year long is every single game. Decker, you get a touchdown. Marshall, you get a touchdown. So that gives a great baseline for Fitzpatrick. I don't love his matchup this coming week against the Cowboys. They have a pretty good defense, but it's hard for me not to believe that Decker's going to get a touchdown and that Marshall's going to get a touchdown even against those boys, especially now.
Marshall has touchdowns in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 straight games. The touchdown yesterday was hilarious.
Oh, my goodness. If you didn't see it, go look at the clip. It was...
So we'll transition into wide receivers. Touchdown. We've talked about Doug Baldwin. 3 more touchdowns for Baldwin. A must start at this point.
Yes.
Who else do you want to bring up? Because Ginn would be somebody worth talking about in fantasy.
Ginn, and that's... Yes. I'll say this for Ginn.
you got some thoughts there?
I'm trying to formulate how you
bring them out of your mouth.
Ginn, because he's not a guy you want to plug in as your wide receiver too. I mean, 120 yards and 2 touchdowns on 2 catches.
Yeah, that was both of them.
I mean, that's not something you're like, yep, every single week.
But would you rather rely on 2 catches from Ted Ginn, from Ginn with Cam Newton, or throw Deshaun Jackson out there and wait on Cousins to hit him deep? Like, Newton is playing at such a level
very fair.
That I've started to elevate Ginn as that, great flex play in a matchup that can give you a game like this. He was the leading scorer at the wide receiver position in most leagues.
But it's
him
still
and Baldwin.
It's still a flex player to me.
Yes,
he's a
I
guy
agree with you.
Where if you are, let's say you don't have a flex, I mean, you better have some strong floor players if you're going to throw Ginn in there to put the icing on your strawberry shortcake
of a team.
Put you over the top.
That's your team name, wasn't it?
Yeah, strawberry
shortcakes. That is your team dead now? Is that how it works?
I renamed my team the Jose Aldos.
Oh,
Jose Aldos. Because that's what it felt like.
He didn't have any touchdowns either. Well, I guess one.
he had a touch to his
touchdown.
Face of a punch.
Jason, I want to talk to you about Allen Hurns, because you have shown the most confidence in him, and he once again repaid that confidence with a huge touchdown in this game, being back on the field. Where is he rest of the season for you?
Allen Hurns is very much like Eric Decker to me. He's that second wide receiver who just gets a touchdown every single week. Blake Bortles has been a good enough quarterback to get him that touchdown. As far as where he goes forward, I would like Decker more than Hurns, but they're so similar to me, both in the fact that they are always injured and always play. I am never going to be afraid of Hurns from an injury report. He has shown too many times. He's shown, what week are we on? 13? So he's shown 12 weeks, basically, that he
14.
can be.
Week 14.
Week 14. So he missed a week, and I think he's had 1 bad week. So 12 times he has essentially been injured and not able to practice in full, and he comes in and gets the job done. You go to Atlanta next week. We saw Ginn take a couple long ones over the top this last week, and then they finished the year at New Orleans, which has been juicy. But I will say this: we need to realize that New Orleans has been a better defense the last few weeks, and we need to stop just seeing them as an automatic, awesome fantasy matchup. They're still beatable.
Didn't pan out for Winston, Evans, Safarian-Jenkins this week.
Exactly. And over the last few weeks, they give up the fewest yards, shockingly, to the wide receiver. And it came with a defensive coordinator change. It wasn't just out of the blue they started being better. They changed their D coordinator, and then they were better.
We need the fantasy players, we need a petition. We need to get a petition going with signatures from around the world. Reinstate Rob Ryan in New Orleans.
For fantasy?
We need that.
Yeah, well, it's not been as easy going, and I've said this so many times. Don't overplay the matchup. Play the player, not just the matchup. We saw this happen earlier. I realized on the show we were debating T.Y. Hilton and Vincent Jackson in the context, though, of Hasselbeck's injury. And so you measure those things, but, Vincent Jackson, great matchup, terrible game. T.Y. Hilton, worst situation,
got hurt.
Big game. I understand. Yeah, he got hurt, but so Mike Evans, right? The matchup is so juicy. People doubt T.Y. Hilton because of the quarterback situation. Didn't really pan out that way. Generally the cream rises, and the better players can put up games in different situations. I don't know if there's anybody else. I mean, Golden Tate had a good game.
Yeah.
Golden Tate had a very good game.
Because Calvin Johnson
Disappeared.
did not. I'm getting ahead of things. I apologize.
Yeah. So, well, sort of. Running backs.
Golden Tate, just real quick before we move on. 9 catches this week, 8 catches, 7 catches, 8 catches. That's receptions, not targets.
That's Jim Bob Cooter coming in and the offense changing again.
I mean, that's fantastic. And so he's got a decent floor there where you're not going to get nothing. And now he has 3 touchdowns in his last 3 games. So
I also want to kind of emphasize my growing affections for Randall Cobb because of the play calling changes.
No, seriously.
That's growing since when? Since Sunday?
Since Mike McCarthy was made the play calling,
which was Sunday.
Because
funny we're talking about dropping him last week.
Yeah, he said to me before the game that with Mike McCarthy going, Randall Cobb is someone really interesting to watch and see how it pans out.
Well, him and Lacey both, because when McCarthy was the play caller, those guys had a more integral part of the offense, and now you saw Cobb come out and have the higher volume of catches. Cobb never had the guaranteed touchdowns, but if he's catching 4 a week, he's useless. If he's 8 or 9 a week, he has a role, and then he has the potential of the touchdowns too. So I am encouraged is a much better way.
Yeah,
Growing
good.
affection is the wrong word. Encouraged by Cobb, encouraged by Lacey. I told a lot of people to start Lacey this week because of the switch over that seemed to happen with McCarthy's attitude toward him. And we know what they can be. I mean, if you're going to start somebody that you know can be something great if you're just taking a shot in the dark.
Which we saw a goal line sequence where Green Bay was still being a little shady to Eddie Lacy with the first 2. The first 2 carries they didn't give him to Lacy. So, I mean, Green Bay.
24 for 124 and a touchdown for Eddie Lacy. 1 for 24 in the air. James Starks contributed 11 for 71, 4 for 32, 2 touchdowns.
With a huge run.
Starks is this. Starks is, give me 10 carries, give me a couple catches, and I'll make a big play. He's not been the bell cow guy, so it's better for both guys in a lot of ways. But would you start Starks in any situation?
I would flex him at this point. If
you were me and I lost Thomas Rawls?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if they're going to continue to split the snaps like they have been, and they're not just going to say, Eddie Lacy, go, then he has to have some value as a running back who's on a higher-powered offense. You got to believe in him.
Are we back to trusting in Todd Gurley?
Yeah. I said last week
there was some doubt.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there was some doubt, but you see the offensive coordinator change and the fact that there was the question of, is this the rookie wall for a guy who was coming off a knee surgery? That makes complete sense if that was the reason for his lack of production.
Well, and Case Keenum was back.
Well, that
so
certainly helps.
The Foles games, Gurley was terrible. Keenum somehow is moving this offense a little bit differently.
I believe the Rams also had a pick 6. I mean, just the game flow stayed in control for Todd Gurley.
One of the things that you notice, I picked up really into that game right before Gurley's first touchdown. And before his first that drive where he got that touchdown, I think he had 8 carries for 8 yards. He had a terrible beginning to this game, and that is why. I mean, Gurley. You see that sometimes
sticking with
Adrian
the run.
Peterson. He's the type of running back that wears guys down. And I mean, you saw it in Arizona. He had a terrible first half, and then just
no.
I'm saying the first week in Arizona when he came out, Todd Gurley.
Oh, Gurley. I was like, Peterson was backwards this week.
No.
Okay.
Where he wore us down, and so with an offensive coordinator that's dedicated to continuing to give him the ball, I'm not worried about Todd Gurley.
All right, so Gurley won people some weeks this week if you stuck with him. David Johnson Thursday night had a big game. Could have had 2 touchdowns that game, ended up with none, but he still had a very solid game. D'Angelo Williams gave you a big game this week. Bilal Powell was very valuable for you again in PPR leagues. 3 for 36 only on the ground, but 5 for 46 and a touchdown in the air. Big third down plays. It seems like Powell comes through.
He's a flex-worthy type of guy. Him and James Starks, pretty much the same type of situation
and
for me.
Especially this coming week, I think it's going to be better for Powell. Or I'm sorry, I'm thinking of the championship week 16, when they're facing the New England Patriots.
And they might be catching up.
Yeah, game flow is going to be very good for Powell. So good stash right now.
That's going to be a heck of a game, by the way.
Yeah.
Because it's in New York, and New York getting Revis back, played very well on defense. The way that Fitzpatrick is playing right now, I think the Jets will have a shot in that game.
Massive playoff implications from that game.
Absolutely. So let's move on. Tight ends. We got to get into our poop section, by the way, very soon.
Yes.
Not every show has a poop section. We are a unique show. That was one of the requirements to get Mike to stay on board with the show was we have to have a segment that is about
that talks about his team. Yeah.
I put my foot down. Snap. I put my foot down. I said, look, I'm hitting the bricks unless we talk about BMs.
That's Mike for you. You know what's kind of funny? There's like a weird small amount of people who just for some reason really want you to shave your beard.
Really?
Just for no reason other than they don't like beards. They're beardists.
You can include my daughter in that.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
she wants you to?
Yeah.
Oh, that's the one that could get it done, though.
Nope.
Forget these fantasy owners.
He hates his daughter.
Yeah. I'm gonna shave my beard. I'll throw you out of the house before I shave my beard.
Shave her head.
Oh, family life.
I will offer her that deal.
Yeah.
The trade?
I will shave my beard if you shave your head.
And what if she says yes?
I would never let
And then
her.
she'll be like, Daddy, why are you living in a different house? Because your wife will see your daughter that day. And you'll be like, you'll walk out with a clean face. Your daughter will walk out bald. And you'll be like, we made a trade.
Yeah.
And she'll be like, I'm going to trade you.
It's V for Vendetta.
Yeah, that's what's your daughter, 6?
Yeah,
6 years old?
It's her favorite movie, guys.
V for
She's into
V for Vendetta?
Yeah.
The whole lore. Good. All right. Tight ends.
Rule 86,
Rule
baby.
86 came through in a big way, 9 for 120 and a touchdown. Jordan Reed back at it.
We actually have Rule 86s here because Zach Miller also had a great game, also number 86.
Whoa.
So, I mean, he's a guy that's been coming on hot, and Martellus Bennett is gone.
He was a flyer for us. He was that.
He's interesting.
Bennett's gone. I made a post that said I thought Eddie Royal might have a big role towards the end of the season because of the loss of Marcus Wilson now on IR and the loss of Bennett. In this game, Zach Miller played a big part. Gary Barnidge came through again, 5 for 84 and a touchdown in the better managed Cleveland Brown offense. Yes, they were playing the 49ers and they could run the ball, but hey, Gary Barnidge is pretty darn solid. Robert Gronkowski, have you heard of him?
And a surprise.
I went against this show in my league because on this show we said verbatim, if Gronk plays, you start him, which thankfully, if you follow that advice,
it was good advice.
It was good advice. I didn't. I did not follow the advice. I was thrown off by Mike having some Thursday night guys that didn't do so good, and I was terrified about not playing ASJ in the morning. And I kept waiting. The reports on Rob Gronkowski were like, will be active, role limited, maybe ready to play, maybe not. And it was too frightening for me. And I even went out.
Ready if needed.
I went out and I signed Will Tye for Monday, just in case, but I didn't have the guts to go through. And I didn't need him, thankfully, because that would have been heartbreaking to lose without Gronk or with him on your bench.
And I'm reminded of, with the Gronk play, a similar situation I was in a couple years ago with Jimmy Graham. So exact same position when he was on the Saints and he hurt his foot I believe it was, and there was all these weeks of maybe he's going to play, maybe he's not, only in certain situations. And then he was basically only coming in for the red zone and catching touchdowns. But and we kind of had that rule back then. Well, if Jimmy Graham is playing, you got to play him. But he had a few times where he came out and just sucked. So I don't blame you at all for not wanting to play him.
Did you want me to play him?
Yes.
Okay.
I did.
That explains it. Yeah, because I figured you might want the chance at a 0.
Yeah.
Because you never know.